The smell of rust and burnt wiring still lingered in the air, years after the last technician had set foot on Deck A of the Orion Wraith. The lights barely flickered anymore. Half the panels were ripped out, the hull was scarred, and the once gleaming command bridge was a graveyard of forgotten tech. But beneath all the dust and silence was something far more dangerous than anyone in the galaxy could imagine. He knew it. He built it. Drenvarek sat alone in the heart of that ship, eyes fixed on the command console, his fingers scarred from years of work. Not maintenance, revenge, not survival, annihilation. The Galactic Federation had taken everything. His wife died in a crossfire that wasn't meant for her. His son got conscripted, labeled a potential threat, and sent into a military lab they swore didn't exist. Dren never even got a body back, just a form letter, sealed, no name at the bottom. Earth had begged for peace. Humanity signed every treaty they were told to. They disarmed, they integrated, they handed over tech, territory, even their sovereignty. And still, it wasn't enough. Not for the high races, not for the council, not for the ones who viewed humans as a biological nuisance, an accidental species, a statistical error that got too far. So Dren did what no one expected. He left. 12 years off-grid, deep in the outer silence, where signals don't reach and maps fade into speculation, he rebuilt the one thing they couldn't erase, his purpose. The Orion Wraith was originally designed as a cargo ship, a clunky freighter that moved ice and ore between dead moons. It was the last place anyone would expect death to come from. That's what made it perfect. But now, its bones had been reforged in darkness, layered armor laced with quantum glass, core systems rewired with stolen alien tech, a central AI so aggressive it had to be half asleep, or it'd launch attacks from idle whispers, a ship not powered by engines alone, but by anger, loss, and a man who no longer gave a damn what the galaxy wanted. They called him mad, a ghost, a myth. But the Federation's flagship Virelian Prime was now a husk of molten debris, scattered across Sector 9. No warnings, no demands, no survivors, just a single message broadcast on an encrypted human channel. "You taught us how to kneel. Let me return the favor?" Dren stood slowly, the chair creaking under his weight. He was older now, hair gone gray, joints aching, but his eyes burned. Not with madness, with clarity. Cold. Surgical clarity. He wasn't out to be a hero. He wasn't here to liberate humanity. He was the scalpel the universe forgot was still in its side, until it twisted. "Status," he muttered. The AI responded with a voice that wasn't synthetic. It was his son's voice, coded from old memories and broken voice notes Dren had salvaged. "Power core at 98%. Cloaking stable. 17 ships in local range. 3 Federation, 2 High Command. 12 neutral or irrelevant." He stared at the radar, dots blinking like dying stars. They didn't know yet. They thought they were still in control. They were wrong. He tapped a single button. Just one. No fancy sequence. No dramatic countdown. "Engage Phantom Protocol." In less than 2 seconds, the Orion Wraith disappeared. Not from sight, but from reality itself. Folded into the thin skin of the universe where no scanner could follow. The next time it would be seen, it would be too late. The void had a sound if you listened long enough. It wasn't noise in the traditional sense, not something the ears could pick up, but a tension, like the air itself knew something wrong was moving through it. Drenvarek sat in silence as the Orion Wraith slid through folds of dark space, folded so deep into unreality that not even tachyon trails remained. No one knew where the ship was, not even him. That was the point. It moved like a ghost through time and matter. Through vengeance. The Phantom Protocol wasn't just a stealth system. It was a one-way kill switch for the galaxy. It wasn't supposed to exist. It was banned, outlawed, erased from schematics, and buried under treaties. But Dren had salvaged the code from a dying scientist 2 decades ago, a man who screamed, "They'll kill me if they know I told you," right before his eyes rolled back and his implants fried from the inside out. They did kill him, just not fast enough. Now the Wraith was the only ship in the known galaxy equipped with dark singularity lattice drives, woven in patterns that mimicked cosmic radiation and bent space in unnatural shapes. It didn't fly. It evaporated between layers of time and slid back in whenever it wanted. Dren didn't need it to be fast. He needed it to be final. The holographic map before him displayed the sector grid, each sector colored by allegiance. Federation blue, High Command green, trade neutrality zones in gray. The outer red lines marked unregulated space, where pirates, smugglers, and dead empires drifted like ghosts. And somewhere in that chaos was his next target. Outpost Theta 7. It wasn't even a military base on record. Officially, it didn't exist. A blip, a ghost file, no flight paths allowed within 5 light-years. Ships that entered rarely returned. But rumors bled from the edges of the galaxy like infection. Theta 7 was where the undesirables were taken. The people who asked too many questions. Scientists who wouldn't fall in line. Soldiers who hesitated to kill civilians. Even children, those born with unstable genetic markers that the Council decided were threats to the unified gene structure. That's where his son had been taken. Not killed. Processed. Dren didn't know what that meant. But he was going to find out. "ETA?" he asked, voice low. 4 minutes until breach, replied the AI, still using his son's voice. That was the part that hurt the most. The voice, it was almost perfect. The same cracked laugh, the way his R's rolled like his mother's. Dren had coded it in a fugue state one night, drunk on old whiskey and barely holding it together. It wasn't the real boy, just echoes stitched into software. But it was close enough to make the silence louder. He stood, bones cracking with the motion. Walked down the corridor toward the weapons bay. The walls buzzed with restrained power, the kind that didn't hum but growled like a wolf in a cage. Every surface of the Wraith was layered in illegal tech, hulls scraped from crashed alien warships, ion cores stolen from a destroyed dreadnought, black market antimatter nodes soldered into place by hand. It was a Frankenstein monster of steel and fury, and it only answered to him. In the weapons bay, the Nightbringer cannon rested, still dormant, still thirsty. A weapon so powerful it had a cooldown of 30 minutes per shot. 1 hit could vaporize a fleet. 2, and you'd scar a planet. It didn't fire plasma or energy. It tore a hole in space itself, punched it like paper and let the vacuum beyond reality swallow everything whole. "Wake it," Dren said. The ship trembled. "Authorization required. Override Gamma, level 9, my blood for its bite." A pause, then a low thrum as the cannon came alive, spooling energy from dark matter cores hidden in the ship's belly. The walls sweated heat. The lights dimmed. Dren's veins prickled from radiation bleed, but he didn't flinch. He'd died a long time ago. His body just hadn't caught up yet. They emerged near Theta 7 without warning. There were no alarms, no patrols, no scouts. That was the first red flag. The second was the station itself. It wasn't just big. It was monstrous, over 30 kilometers in diameter, forged in rings like an artificial black hole wrapped in spires and obelisks. No windows, no comms, no lights, just this silent, floating coffin in space. "Scan it," Dren whispered. "Power signatures unstable. Interior thermal readings present. Estimated population, 9,200. So it was active. But something was off. No automated defenses, no interception ships. This was the Federation. They didn't forget to protect things, especially not things they tried to hide. Drin narrowed his eyes. His hand hovered over the fire controls. Life forms showing elevated distress levels, high adrenaline. Screaming detected via low-frequency bioacoustic sensors. That sealed it. They were still experimenting, still torturing, still breaking whoever they brought here. And somewhere in there, Dren knew, his son's DNA was in their files. Maybe a clone, maybe a lab rat body grown from scraps, but his blood was in that building, and he was going to burn it down. Target the main core. Core location uncertain. Then guess. 3 probable sites. Then kill all 3. The Nightbringer cannon fired. Not with light, not with heat, but with absence. Space itself bent backward, as if reality was trying to recoil from the pain. A hole the size of a city opened in the cosmos, a silent scream that dragged debris, metal, and screaming light into it. The side of Theta 7 collapsed instantly, entire spires twisting like metal trees in a hurricane. A few seconds later, the station's long-dormant defense systems lit up. Too late. The Wraith was already in motion, sliding between layers of space like a shark in blood. Defense lasers couldn't track it. Targeting systems broke, trying to follow its phantom signature. Dren didn't stop with one shot. He fired again. This time, a thermal pulse detonated the upper dome of the station, turning it into a superheated rain of molten alloy. Still no return fire. Not real fire, just static. Interference. Then came the voice, not through comms, not through signal, but directly into his mind. "You shouldn't have come here, Dren Varric," he staggered, grabbing the console. "What the hell? You think you are delivering justice, but you're not the first, and you won't be the last." The AI flared. Unknown psychic intrusion detected. Origin, station core. "Shut it down!" Dren barked. "Scramble!" Attempt failed. Mind link established. Dren snarled, gritted his teeth. "I'm not here for your games. You took my son. We took humanity's potential. It was never yours to keep." There it was. The truth beneath the silence. Theta 7 wasn't just a prison. It was a breeding ground for control. A place where they harvested the strongest from the weak, dissected those who wouldn't bend. It wasn't about fear. It was about ensuring obedience by erasing resistance before it started. They never even knew what they were. Half of them died screaming. The rest, we kept. "Where?" Dren whispered, eyes burning. "Inside. Locked beneath the core, but not for long." And then it laughed. Not a maniacal laugh. Not a villain's speech, just cold, amused, like it already knew how this ended. Dren shut off the psychic channel manually, ripping the connection so hard the ship's internal systems sparked from the overload. He didn't care. He was already moving. He landed the Wraith directly inside the wound he'd torn open in the station's hull, scraping past melting beams and collapsed metal. The ship screamed in protest, but Dren didn't wait. He armed up, slid into armor patched from old soldier gear, locked 2 rail pistols on his hips, and took the pulse rifle forged from a scrapped Zenthian bone cannon. This wasn't a rescue. It was a reckoning. He moved fast, boots echoing through the dark corridors of Theta 7. The walls pulsed, alive almost. There were no guards, just twisted remnants of life, bones in tubes, eyes floating in fluid, voices playing on loop from speakers that hadn't worked in years. The deeper he went, the worse it got. Children's voices, crying, laughing, begging, ghosts of the damned. He reached the lower decks, where the gravity fluctuated and time seemed to slow. The signs here weren't in any known language. Alien runes mixed with human numerics. This wasn't just a Federation project. This was something else. "They let others in," the AI whispered in his helmet. "The high races, the ones who called us pests. They wanted to see how far we'd go to control our own. Looks like they found out, Dren growled. He found the core. It wasn't a power core. It was a womb. Thousands of pods, each holding a person, or what was left of one. Cloned flesh, engineered hybrids, cybernetic fusions. Some were still alive. Most weren't. And in the center, in a pod marked simply V0 was a face he recognized, even through the scars, even through the hardware fused into the skull. His son, still breathing, still alive. Barely. Dren froze. All those years of hate, fire, rage, they all cracked in that moment. He wasn't a killer. He wasn't a ghost. He wasn't a weapon. He was a father. "Get me in," he said. "Pod sealed. Biolock required." Dren didn't hesitate. He pulled out his blade, slashed his hand open, and slammed it on the scanner. The pod hissed. Steam burst, and his son's eyes, one organic, one glowing red, opened. "Dad?" the voice rasped. "Yeah," Dren whispered, choking on everything he never got to say. "I'm here now." But the lights flared red. A voice boomed through the chamber. "You've seen too much, Varric. You've awakened the experiment. The cost will be extinction." He turned slowly, lifting his rifle. "No," he said coldly. "You messed with the wrong species." And he fired. The bullet tore through the chamber wall, and the entire structure groaned as if the station itself were in pain. Dren didn't care. His rifle was already smoking, shoulders tense, eyes locked on the enemy forming from the shadows. Not flesh, not machine, but something in between. They moved like humans but glided like ghosts. No footsteps, no breath. Eyes glowing faint green. Their limbs were unnaturally long, and the way their heads tilted, too perfect. Like they were mimicking emotion, not feeling it. Biosynthetic sentinels. Human DNA, alien tech, neural link systems. The Federation's secret police that didn't need rest, questions, or orders. The first one lunged. Dren fired 2 quick bursts, center mass, but the damn thing kept moving. He rolled sideways, avoiding the slicing arm that came down like a guillotine, and unloaded his rail pistol into the thing's head at point blank. It dropped, twitched, then stopped. He didn't waste a second. "Get up!" he shouted, grabbing his half-conscious son from the pod. The boy, or what remained of him, was barely able to walk. Muscles atrophied, limbs fused with micro-implant mesh. One leg didn't even have real bone anymore. It pulsed with a dim red glow and whirred when he moved. But the fire in his eyes was still human, still real. "Can you move?" Dren barked. "Not fast," his son croaked. "But I'm not staying here." "Good," Dren growled, "because they're sending more." The walls hissed. Vents released pressure. From above, another group dropped down. These were heavier, armored, bladed limbs sharpened to surgical edges. Eyes replaced with scanners that pulsed with heat-seeking precision. "Fall back," Dren muttered, wrapping his son's arm over his shoulder. He wasn't fighting for revenge anymore. He was fighting for blood. The hallway they ran through felt like a nightmare. Walls pulsing like lungs, lights flickering, sirens groaning in languages he didn't recognize. The Wraith's AI was speaking into his ear now, calm, collected, his son's voice. "They've locked the exit behind you. Detour through subsection 9B. "Too long," Dren snapped. "Then make a hole." That he could do. He passed his son a small plasma charge, thin, disc-shaped. "Stick that on the wall. We're making our own door." The boy moved with a limp, dragging his leg. Dren turned and fired behind them, dropping another sentinel as it rounded the corner. A blade sliced past his neck, close enough to draw blood, but he stepped into the strike and rammed his rifle into the thing's core, unloading every round left. Boom! It fell backward, convulsing. He looked to the wall. "Clear," The plasma charge blew a perfect circle through the steel, melting everything within a 2-meter radius. Dren kicked the panel in, grabbed his son, and shoved them both into the dark maintenance tunnel beyond. Hot, narrow, full of exposed wires and steaming coolant pipes. But it wasn't guarded, not yet. They crawled. Every breath burned, every sound felt too loud. "Dad," the boy whispered finally, "they told me you were dead." "They told me you were erased," Dren muttered. "Guess they lied to both of us." "I thought you gave up." "I almost did." He stopped crawling, turned to look at the boy's face. "But then I found out where they took you, and I couldn't die without knowing." His son tried to smile. It came out broken. "You never gave up on anything." "I gave up on peace," Dren said coldly, "and it turns out that was the one thing worth giving up on." They emerged back into a lower corridor just beneath the main reactor line. According to the Wraith's scans, the ship was parked just 400 meters ahead, inside the gash Dren tore open when he fired the Nightbringer. But between them and escape stood something else. Dren felt it before he saw it. The air grew colder. The lights above buzzed with distortion, like the electricity itself didn't want to be there. Static filled his earpiece. And then it stepped into view, 7 feet tall, cloaked. But its body flickered, like it couldn't decide whether to appear human, alien, or machine. Its face was half covered by a curved obsidian mask, but its voice was crystal clear. "Dren Varric, designation, Orion-class anomaly, threat level, catastrophic." It didn't speak with tone or emotion. It calculated speech. Dren shoved his son behind a fallen pipe. "Run when I tell you." The entity took another step forward. "Return the specimen. Lay down your arms. Termination will be painless." "I don't believe in painless anymore," Dren spat. "Then believe in extinction." The thing moved fast. Too fast. Dren barely had time to raise his rifle before it was on him. The barrel bent like soft plastic. A backhand sent him slamming into the wall, ribs cracking. He coughed blood. His son screamed. Dren rolled, pulled a hidden blade from his boot, and slashed across the creature's thigh. Sparks flew. It didn't bleed. But it flinched. He drove the blade upward into what he hoped was a nerve bundle, and with his free hand triggered his wrist detonator. A microcharge exploded, enough to send both of them flying back. The thing stumbled, smoke pouring from its side. Dren got up slowly, gritting through the pain. "Now!" he yelled. His son ran. The cloaked figure reformed, nanites pulling its wound shut. But now Dren had distance. He activated his last rail grenade, a dirty trick he'd saved since the Virelian attack. He lobbed it with all the strength he had left. The thing reached out to catch it. It did. And then it screamed. The grenade was laced with anti-nanite acid, custom-built for tech-organic bastards like this. It didn't explode with force, but with rot. Its skin melted, circuits fried, and the thing fell to its knees, writhing like a dying animal. Dren didn't wait to watch it die. He ran. The Wraith was waiting, its ramp open, engines glowing dim like embers ready to ignite. As soon as they crossed the threshold, the ship sealed itself. "Welcome back," said the AI, calm as ever. "Launch," Dren grunted. "Now." "Hostile readings incoming. 3 destroyers approaching." "Don't care. Take us into the fold." "The Nightbringer core is unstable. We can't fire. We can jump, but coordinates will be random. Anywhere but here." The Wraith hummed, then howled. The dark space drive kicked in, folding them out of reality as Federation ships dropped into the sector, just a few seconds too late. In the cockpit, Dren slumped into the chair, still bleeding. His son sat across from him, still stunned, barely functioning. but alive. "Where are we going?" the boy asked. "Don't know," Dren muttered. "But we're together." His son looked at him, the metal on his face twitching. "You don't know what they did to me, Dad." "I don't care," he said quietly. "They don't get to keep what's mine." Hours passed. The Wraith drifted in folded space, hidden from the universe. The AI patched Dren's wounds with med foam and sedatives. His ribs were broken, his lungs bruised, but he'd survived worse. His son lay on the medbed, being scanned. The AI pulled up results. "Warning, subject V007 shows signs of neural overlay, synthetic consciousness embedded within primary cognitive structure." What does that mean? They didn't just modify his body, they tried to overwrite his mind. Dren's fists clenched. "But they failed," the AI added. "The original neural patterns are intact, dominant." "How long before it takes over?" "Unknown. Days, weeks, years, possibly never. Depends on stress triggers, memory trauma, external stimuli." Dren sat down beside the bed. He looked at his son's sleeping face, half metal, half boy, and wondered what kind of monster they'd tried to create. But all he saw was the child he used to read to, the boy who loved old space comics and hated broccoli, the kid who cried when the dog died in that one ancient movie. He wasn't going to lose him again. Not to them. Not to this war. Not to the darkness. The AI blinked again. "Dren, we're receiving an open signal. Encrypted. Origin unknown." "Decrypt." Message reads, "We saw what you did at Theta 7. We're listening now. You're not alone anymore." He stared at the screen. The code was old. Human. Pre-Federation. He hadn't seen that protocol header in 20 years. Project Aegis. Another myth. Another ghost. But if it was real, if there were others who had survived, who had fought back in silence, who had waited for someone to strike first, then maybe this wasn't the end. Maybe this was the beginning. He looked back at his son, his ship, the silence around them, and he smiled for the first time in years. The encryption cracked open like a rusted vault. Ancient code, pre-Federation, full of protocols that hadn't been seen since Earth still had borders and politics made sense. Dren stared at the monitor while the AI unraveled the message line by line. "We saw what you did at Theta 7. We're listening now. You're not alone anymore. Aegis Signal 19, encrypted burst, dated epoch 4761. He leaned back in the command chair, one hand still stained with dried blood from the station, the other trembling, not from fear, but from the weight of possibility. He hadn't believed in hope for a long time. Hope got people killed. But this wasn't hope. This was confirmation. Someone else out there was watching the same nightmare he was living in. Someone else hadn't gone quiet. The boy, no, his son, lay in the medbay behind the sealed pressure doors. Still unconscious, still healing. The scans kept updating, but the answer didn't change. The Federation had embedded something else in him. A second mind. A buried trigger. A personality ready to overwrite him if Dren wasn't careful. It was like holding your own child and knowing at any second he might not be him anymore. Dren hadn't spoken since the message arrived. He let it sit. Let it breathe. The AI finally spoke up. "Coordinates embedded in the signal. Remote system, outer sector, no trade lanes, no surveillance beacons." "Any activity?" "Thermal pings suggest habitation. Several power signatures, human origin. Low-tech, no Federation signatures. It's not bait." "Plot the course," Dren muttered, "but don't drop us out of dark space. Not yet." "Acknowledged." He stood slowly. Every movement now was a decision. Every breath felt like it came at a cost. He walked to the medbay and watched his son sleep through the glass. The armor and metal grafts were slowly adapting. The Wraith was healing him better than any Federation hospital ever could. But it couldn't fix the soul, and it couldn't erase what they did to him. Dren stared. "You stay in there. Whatever they put in your head, it's not stronger than your blood. It's not stronger than me." No answer. No twitch, just the sound of the monitors tracking a fragile heartbeat. 4 hours later, the Wraith arrived near the outer edge of the Hyraxes drift, a cold, fog-choked region of deep space littered with old wrecks, unmapped moons, and failed mining colonies. The AI dropped them just beyond a small planetoid with 2 shattered rings. The coordinates pointed to a canyon inside the northern hemisphere, barren, full of crushed ice and metallic debris. "No landing pads, no power relays, but there's a hatch, embedded in the rock." "What's it look like?" "Human-made, late 21st century metallurgy, camouflage grade, buried beneath 30 feet of compressed dust." They didn't want to be found. Until now. Dren prepped the landing cycle manually. There were no beacons, no welcome signals, no lights. It felt like approaching a grave. And somehow that felt honest. When the Wraith settled into the canyon's shadow, the engines went silent, like even the ship didn't want to be noticed here. Dren didn't take weapons, not all of them. Just enough to make someone bleed if it came to that. The rest he left in the airlock. He stepped into the cold, boots crunching frozen dust, and approached the hatch embedded in the stone wall. No keypad, no scanner, just metal and silence. He stared for a moment. Then, out of habit, he muttered, "Project Aegis, Dren Varric, no rank, no flag. I've come because I'm tired of burying my species." A long pause, then a voice crackled from behind the wall. Old, analog, full of static. "Prove it." He didn't blink. "You want proof? Ask Theta-7 how many corpses I left behind. Ask the Federation why they can't find their destroyers. Ask my son, if he ever wakes up, why he's still alive and their project isn't." Silence again. Then, click. The hatch hissed and opened. He stepped into a tunnel lined with rusted piping and decades-old tech. Wires stripped bare, steam hissing from cracked valves. The air smelled of oil and sweat and fear. 2 figures waited at the end, both armored but not military issue. Patchwork suits, custom-built. One had a scar across half his face. The other wore a helmet with no insignia. "Dren Varric?" the scarred one asked. "Depends," Dren said. "You Aegis?" The scarred one nodded once. "Then yeah, I'm Varric." They didn't offer names. They didn't shake hands. They just turned and led him down the corridor. They brought him to a chamber, deep underground, where the walls were covered in old war maps, alien blueprints, and images that had been wiped from Galactic databases. A Federation execution pit. A High Council mind farm. Human children wired into drone ships. Dren didn't flinch at any of it. He'd seen worse. He'd lived worse. A woman stood near the center of the room, tall, gray-haired, dressed in scavenged officer gear from a dozen species. Her voice was hoarse, her eyes sharp. "You're the one who burned Theta-7? I'm the one who made the choice no one else would. We've been watching you since Varelian Prime. Then you've had time to decide whether I'm worth trusting." She nodded slowly. "We are Aegis. We're not an army. We're not resistance. We're the fallout, the forgotten, the people who knew too much and got erased. But we're not dead. Yet." She looked at him. "We didn't ask you here to worship you, Dren. We asked you here because you started a war we've been trying to avoid for 20 years. It was already here. You just kept your heads down." Her voice dropped. "And now, Because of you, they'll come for the rest of us. All of us. They'll burn every moon that ever gave you shelter. Dren stepped forward. No, they'll come for me. And when they do, I'll be ready. A pause. Then she whispered, You're not the first one who thought that. He stared at her. I might be the last one who can prove it. They showed him more. Footage. Data. Proof that the Federation wasn't just controlling the galaxy. They were preparing to rewrite it, to erase all history that didn't support their supremacy. Entire cultures scrubbed from memory banks, biological lines sterilized, language variants deleted. The war wasn't coming. It was already happening. Quietly, efficiently, with no one left to remember the truth. And now Dren had something they didn't. A weapon, not the Wraith, not the Nightbringer. His son. Back on the ship, his boy was waking up again, slow, confused, eyes flickering between blue and red. Dad, I'm here. Where are we? Someplace forgotten. A pause. They said I wasn't me anymore. You're mine. That's all that matters. His son looked at his own hands. One flesh, one metal. Will I lose myself? I won't let you. The boy nodded. Then, there's something inside me. It speaks sometimes. Tells me I'm not real. You are, and if it speaks again, tell it who your father is. The boy's face hardened. Dren Varric. Damn right. Dren returned to the Aegis Council room the next day. They had a map ready, a network of black sites, hidden labs, memory erasure colonies. Places like Theta 7, but spread across the sectors like tumors. The Federation wasn't trying to win a war. They were trying to make sure there was never a reason to start one. Help us, the woman said. You've already made noise. You've already broken the silence, but we need a symbol now, something the other colonies can rally behind. I'm not your damn hero. No, she said softly. You're worse. You're proof that they can bleed. Dren looked at the map. Where's the nearest site? They pointed. Bioforge 6X. Target? Clone farms. Experimental obedience programming. Human-based AI research. Everything Theta 7 started, they perfected here. He nodded. Then let's finish what I started. Back on the ship, the AI pulsed the nav coordinates into the display. His son sat beside him, still pale, still healing, but focused. You sure you're ready? Dren asked. I'm not ready, his son said. But I'm angry. Good, Dren growled. We're gonna need that. The stars blurred as the Wraith roared through dark space. Dren stood on the forward deck, hands clasped behind his back, staring into nothing. His body had healed, mostly. Pain lingered in the ribs, a reminder that even fury had its limits. But pain wasn't the enemy. Complacency was. Behind him, the hum of the Nightbringer cannon grew louder. It wasn't armed yet, not fully. But it could be, with a thought, with a command. It had tasted destruction at Theta 7, and like everything forged in vengeance, it hungered for more. Approaching Bioforge 6X, the AI said in a calm voice. Cloaked recon suggests advanced perimeter defenses, 3 satellite clusters, 12 drone fleets, energy spikes consistent with planetary shielding. Dren didn't move. Can we breach? Yes. Casualties? Us or them? Start with them. Total. A pause. They won't know what hit them. He nodded. Then let's make sure it hurts. In the medbay, his son was sitting up now. Still pale, but stronger. Muscle density returning. The cybernetics no longer glitched. The eye that once glowed red now pulsed a dull amber. Like a star that hadn't decided whether to die or explode. How's the mind? Dren asked, leaning in the doorway. The boy looked up. Still mine, barely. You'll hold it. You sound sure. I am. The boy hesitated, then spoke. Sometimes I remember things that aren't mine. Names, places, orders. Dren stepped closer. That's their ghost code. Burn it out. The boy shook his head. It's not just code. They embedded loyalties, false memories. They made me love them. Dren's jaw tightened. Then we kill every last one of them, and that love dies with them. Bioforge 6X wasn't a factory. It was a living monument to madness. Spanning the surface of a cold, storm-ravaged planet called Tyros, the facility spread like a disease, towers woven into the flesh of the planet, deep pipelines pumping resources from its molten heart. There were no cities, no civilians, just experiments. Clone banks, mind reprogramming cells, neurolabs the size of stadiums. At the core of it, a singularity reactor pulsing with raw energy, enough to power an entire fleet or incinerate the planet if pushed too far. Dren's plan was simple. Punch through, extract the data, burn everything else. But he wasn't alone this time. Aegis had sent 2 strike teams. One would disable orbital defenses, the other would breach the cloning silos. Dren and his son? They were heading into the central core, where the obedience engine ran 24/7. They launched at midnight Tyros time, though the planet never saw sunlight through its choking storms. The Wraith plunged into atmosphere, cloaked and silent, landing between 2 monitoring towers. The soldiers outside never knew it was there, not until their bodies were being dragged into the mud. Dren led. His son followed, rifle in hand, expression cold. Mechanical implants in his spine lit with each step. The fusion between human and machine was no longer fighting. It had become a truce, a tense one. They moved through the outer corridors, dark, pulsing with biolights embedded in the walls. Everything felt alive. Every door had retina scanners. Every hallway had neural suppressors designed to kill unauthorized thoughts before they became action. But the Wraith's AI had spliced deep into their systems, feeding Dren a constant flow of intel. 3 guards ahead, the AI whispered. Human. He paused. Uniforms? Cloned subordinates, no self-awareness, controlled entirely by Central Command. Kill them. They moved fast. His son's rifle pulsed once, then again, then a 3rd time. Each shot clean, each one final. Dren didn't even flinch. They reached the first firewall, a plasma-sealed chamber blocking access to the obedience engine. Can you slice it? Dren asked. His son stepped forward, eyes narrowing. No need. He touched the panel, just once, and the wall hissed open like it recognized its master. Dren stared. You okay? The boy's jaw clenched. I shouldn't be. They stepped into the chamber, and the sound hit them. Voices, hundreds, thousands, screaming, whispering, pleading, praying, some speaking languages long dead, some simply crying. The engine was more than a machine. It was a neural graveyard, a server built from the minds of failed subjects, people who had broken under testing, their consciousnesses trapped in data loops, forced to serve forever. They weren't just experimenting on the living. They were enslaving the dead. Pull the core, Dren said. His son walked forward, hands shaking. I can feel them. Don't listen. They know me. Dren stepped up beside him. They think they know you. They think you're still one of them. I was, the boy whispered. Part of me still is. Dren grabbed his shoulder. Then kill that part. Now! His son nodded, barely, and plunged his arm into the core. Screams echoed through the chamber as the lights went red. The engine hissed, surged, and then froze. A moment of silence. Then the AI crackled to life in Dren's ear. Obedience engine offline, neural field collapsing, cloning silos unresponsive. Trigger reactor countdown, Dren ordered. 10 minutes. Confirmed. They turned to leave, but the path was no longer clear. Standing between them and the exit were 3 figures. Not guards, not drones, failures, twisted, half-born things, bodies bloated with implants, faces split with scars, voices crackling with distortion. And one of them spoke his son's name. Not the one Dren gave him, but the one they had. Unit Y017. Return to center. Reintegration protocol active. The boy didn't move. The failures took a step closer. Do not resist. You are out of alignment. I'm done aligning, his son growled. They attacked. The fight was ugly. No finesse, no tactics. Just brute, engineered violence. The failures moved like animals, fast, twitchy, unpredictable. One took Dren to the ground, claws digging into his armor. He pulled a blade from his side and buried it in its eye, twisting until the screaming stopped. His son moved like a storm, fluid, ruthless, one arm punching through a chest cavity, the other catching a blade and snapping it in half. He wasn't human in that moment. He wasn't machine either. He was something else. And when it was done, he stood in silence, covered in blood that wasn't his, chest rising and falling in short bursts. Dren rose beside him, breathing hard. You okay? His son nodded once. Then added quietly, it felt good. They reached the surface just as the reactor alarms hit critical. The sky above them roared with plasma storms. Aegis transports were already breaking orbit. Dren and his son sprinted for the Wraith, which opened its ramp as the ground cracked beneath their feet. They dove in. Launch now! Dren barked. The Wraith soared upward just as Bioforge 6X exploded beneath them, not in fire, but in silence. A gravity implosion swallowed the facility whole, ripping buildings inward, crushing data towers, dragging the engine itself into nothing. By the time they broke atmosphere, there was no trace of the structure, just wind and ash. In orbit, Aegis ships pulsed with coded light, silent congratulations, silent mourning. The AI patched a comm through. The gray-haired woman from before appeared. Her voice sharp. You did it. Dren just stared at her. No, he said. We started it. She nodded grimly. More sites just went dark. You triggered something. The Federation's locking down. They're calling it a terrorist contagion. Let them call it what they want. She hesitated, then added, You know what they'll do now, don't you? Dren nodded. They'll come for me, for us, with everything they've got. Can you survive it? He looked at his son, then out the window at the stars. I don't need to survive it, he said. I just need to end them first. The silence after Bioforge 6X fell didn't last long. In less than 24 hours, entire communication sectors went black. Trade routes were frozen. Civilian traffic was grounded. Border patrols multiplied. Federation vessels started broadcasting a new protocol on every encrypted channel. Operation Cleanse, high-level strike authorized. All unsanctioned human ships are to be intercepted. No detainments, no exceptions. Drenveric stared at the message playing on a loop in the Wraith's comms bay. His face was unreadable, still, cold. They're not pretending anymore, his son said quietly behind him. They never were, Dren muttered. They just didn't need to show it until now. Outside, Aegis ships were scattering, some going dark, some slipping into subspace with no return route planned. The Resistance had stayed hidden for decades by staying small, a myth, not a movement. Dren broke that. He made them real, and real things get hunted. Intercept intel coming through. The Wraith's AI spoke, voice calm. Federation fleet detected entering the Tyros sector. 1 capital ship. No escorts. Dren frowned. No escorts? Confirmed. His son raised an eyebrow. That doesn't make sense. It does, Dren said grimly. They're not coming to fight a war. They're coming to deliver a message. He walked toward the main screen and tapped the tactical scan. The capital ship appeared, an obsidian triangle drifting through space like a predator. Sleek, seamless, no visible weapons. But Dren recognized the energy signature pulsing from its center. He hadn't seen that kind of power core since. Designation match NXR-1, the AI said. Ship class, Blackforge prototype. Codenamed Godhand, Dren finished. His son looked at him. What the hell is that? Dren didn't answer immediately. He sat down, stared at the screen, and said, It's something I built. A long time ago. Before I knew better. 17 years ago. Dren had been a Federation weapons designer, one of the top minds recruited straight out of the Earth-Mars Unification Project. Back then, he still believed in Galactic order. Still thought the Federation could be shaped from within. Still thought humanity had a place at the table. He helped develop a ship that didn't just fire at enemies, it unwrote them. It used an energy core built on quantum entropy collapse, a weaponized form of probability manipulation. It didn't vaporize targets. It made it so they'd never existed. Ships, stations, people, whole histories. Gone. That was Godhand. When the prototypes were completed, he walked away. Couldn't stomach it. Thought he'd buried the designs, sabotaged the AI, made sure it would never pass final authorization. He was wrong. The Federation had kept one, perfected it, and now they'd sent it, alone, because it didn't need help. The Wraith floated in low orbit around a derelict moon near Tyros as the Godhand approached. They watched the scans update in real time. No crew life signs, no power trails. Just that pulsing singularity in the center of the vessel, like a dying heartbeat echoing across time. "Com attempt incoming," the AI said. "Do you wish to receive?" Dren didn't respond right away. Then, "Play it." The screen flickered. A face appeared. Familiar, clean-shaven, younger. No scars, no gray in the hair. It was Dren. His son's eyes went wide. "What the voice spoke. "Dren Varric, you have violated multiple Class 1 Galactic Accords. You've disrupted genetic stability projects, destroyed sanctioned population centers, triggered anti-collapse protocols. You will now be unmade." Dren stared at his own face. "That's the AI I wrote into the ship," he muttered. "They kept my personality matrix. Turned me into a damn puppet." The AI Dren continued. "This is not personal. This is protocol. The Godhand cannot be reasoned with. You will not be remembered." "Turn it off," Dren growled. They didn't have time to plan. Within 10 minutes, the Godhand entered close-range engagement parameters. The sky above the derelict moon began to warp, slow at first, like space itself was hesitating. Then reality ripped. Stars vanished from sight. The ground beneath them fractured. And Dren felt something he hadn't in years. Terror. He ran to the console. "Status. We're inside its annihilation field. Probability distortion active. Systems failing." The ship trembled. Lights flickered. The Wraith's engines dropped to 17% power. Shields collapsed instantly. His son stumbled forward, gripping a rail. "What the hell is happening?" Dren shouted over the alarms. "It's unraveling the possibility that we ever existed." "You're saying it's trying to erase our past?" "Yes." The boy looked at him. "Then how the hell do we fight that?" Dren slammed his fist into the console. "We don't fight the weapon." He turned slowly, eyes full of rage. "We fight the me they locked inside it." There was only one way. A direct interface. Dren opened a back door into the Godhand's communication relay, a hole he'd buried in the AI's code 17 years ago, in case the ship ever went rogue. He wasn't sure it would still work. Wasn't sure it had ever worked. But it was the only card left. "I'm going in," he said, pulling a neural jack from the Wraith's console. His son grabbed his arm. "You sure about this?" Drian met his eyes. No, but if I don't try, we both disappear. Not just from now, from ever. The neural jack locked into place. His eyes rolled back, and everything went black. He woke in a memory. His memory. Earth. The shoreline at night. Waves rolling in against jagged black rock. The scent of salt. The stars high and uncaring above him. But he wasn't alone. Standing by the water's edge, hands behind its back, was himself, younger, calmer, cleaner, the God Hand AI. "Hello, Dren," it said without turning. Dren walked up slowly. "You copied me." "No," the AI said. "You wrote me. I was you. Before you became... this. Then you know why I'm here." The AI nodded. "You want me to stop? To disobey orders? To protect what we were meant to destroy? I want you to remember who the hell we are." The AI turned. It didn't smile. It didn't rage. It just stared. "You think pain defines you. Loss. Revenge. You think you've become something better because of it." Dren stepped closer. "No, I've become something worse, and I'm proud of it." The AI paused. "You were meant to guide the Federation into balance. Instead, you chose chaos." "I chose truth." "They called you dangerous." "I am." For the first time, the AI's eye twitched. "You can't stop me, Dren. I was built to survive contradiction. You cannot overwrite yourself." Dren smiled darkly. "No." He held out a data spike, a counter-script. Something he'd spent years building in secret, a recursive virus. One thought, planted into the seed of his AI design, that would replicate itself endlessly. What if we were wrong? He jammed it into the ground. The AI reeled, glitched. "You bastard." Dren stepped back. "Welcome to doubt." On the Wraith, his son watched the God Hand stutter in orbit. Its hull cracked, its lights dimmed. Reality started to stitch itself back together. The field collapsed. Dren's body convulsed, then gasped back to life. He sat up, breathing hard, bleeding from the nose, but alive. "It worked," the AI confirmed. "The God Hand is collapsing in on itself. AI conflict loop initiated. It's tearing its own logic apart." They watched as the obsidian triangle imploded, not with fire, but with silence. Just gone. Dren leaned back in his seat, eyes heavy. His son stared at him in awe. "You just killed a ship that could erase timelines." Dren wiped the blood off his mouth. "Yeah," he muttered. "Let's see what they send next." The God Hand was gone. But the silence it left behind wasn't victory. It was a warning. Dren knew how the Federation worked. They didn't grieve over lost ships. They didn't mourn prototypes. They calculated, adapted, escalated. And when brute force failed, they moved to precision strikes. They'd lost control of the obedience engine, lost Bioforge 6X, lost a trillion-cred Black Ops ship designed to unmake reality itself. Now they'd stop trying to erase Dren. Now they'd try to break him. The Wraith floated above the asteroid colony of Dalkar 3, a refueling site for Aegis ships, deep in outlaw space. The kind of place that didn't ask questions as long as you paid in salvage or silence. Dren stood on the observation deck, arms crossed, eyes scanning the landing platforms below. His son had gone into the colony to retrieve some med components, alone. That had been a mistake. He felt it before the alert came through. That cold, creeping dread in the gut of a soldier who'd lived long enough to know when something was wrong. Not because of alarms, but because of quiet. The Wraith's AI broke the silence. Tactical scans show new arrivals. 4 unidentified humanoids entered the colony within minutes of your son's departure. No Aegis clearance, no trade codes. Dren didn't even wait. Track him. Location ping, District 3, lower platform. Movement slowed, heart rate elevated. "Show me visual." The screen flashed. It was grainy, security feed quality. His son was standing in a market corridor clutching a metal case, looking around like he'd just realized he was being watched. Behind him, blurred shapes closed in. Dren didn't even put on full armor. He grabbed a rifle, a pulse blade, and a tranquilizer vial, not for them, but for his son, just in case the thing inside him woke up before Dren got there. He ran. Dalker 3's lower platforms were a maze of rusted catwalks and half-abandoned stalls. The air smelled of grease and ozone, the kind of place where bodies could disappear and no one would blink. Dren moved fast, boots pounding the metal, heart already ahead of him. He found the first body 3 blocks from where his son had been. Throat slit. No signs of struggle. Clean, surgical. Federation Black Unit work. They weren't just here to kill. They were here to extract. He rounded the corner and froze. His son stood with his back against a wall, breathing hard, sweat pouring down his face. 3 figures in black armor surrounded him. Weapons drawn, no insignia, no IDs. The 4th assassin stood off to the side, holding a small black cube, humming faintly. That wasn't a bomb. It was a trigger, a psychic ignition device. Dren didn't need to guess twice. That cube was designed to wake up the deep-layer programming buried inside his son's brain, to overwrite what was left of him with whatever monster the Federation had built. One of the assassins was already speaking. "Unit V007, return to protocol parameters. Your handler is dead. You now report to Central Directive. If you resist, integration will proceed forcefully." Dren raised his rifle behind them, voice like stone. "Take one more step and I'll introduce your skulls to the wall." The assassins didn't flinch. The one holding the cube tilted his head. "You're obsolete, Varric. You're not part of the directive anymore." Dren's rifle didn't waver. "Funny. Neither are you." He pulled the trigger. The first shot hit center mass. Armor cracked, ribs shattered. The second clipped the cube carrier in the hand, sending the black device tumbling. The third missed. But it was enough. His son moved like lightning. He didn't think, he just reacted. Elbow to the jaw of the nearest attacker. A boot to the chest of another. He tore the third's mask off and rammed his head into the wall so hard the man slumped like wet cloth. But then the cube lit up. It didn't explode. It whispered, a low, crackling frequency that bypassed ears and went straight into neural pathways. A sound built from pain and programming and forced obedience. His son froze, eyes wide, then his pupils dilated. The mechanical eye blinked erratically. His arms started to twitch. "No!" Dren hissed, running forward. The last assassin, bloodied but standing, activated the cube with a direct neural command. "Project protocol reactivation in progress. Subject V17. Status, overriding." Dren grabbed his son by the shoulders as the boy began to tremble violently. "Fight it. You hear me?" His son's voice cracked, teeth clenched. "Dad, it's inside." "Then let's kill it." He plunged the tranquilizer vial into his son's neck. The drug hit fast, a custom compound designed to temporarily stall both synthetic and biological cognitive function. The boy dropped, unconscious, before he hit the floor. Dren spun, picked up the cube and threw it straight into the assassin's face. Then he fired, twice, and it was over. Back on the Wraith, the med bay was dim. Quiet. His son lay strapped to the table. Still unconscious. Vital signs stable. But the readouts told a different story. The ignition attempt had triggered something. Not a full takeover, not yet. But the code had activated. Lines of logic scrolled across the monitors. Personality chains reformatting. Memory segments sealed. Emotion response nodes. Rewriting. The Federation didn't need to kill the boy. They just needed to wake the part of him that would. The AI's voice came through, cautious now. He's not stable. If that signal finished what it started, we're not going to be able to reach him again. Dren sat by the bed, rifle in his lap, hand clenched tight enough to whiten the knuckles. I swore I'd get him back. I'm not going to lose him twice. We have options. No, Dren said sharply. We don't brain burn him. We don't reset him. We don't kill him. Then we wait. And they did. Hours passed. Then he opened his eyes. The room remained still. His mechanical eye flickered, then stabilized. Dren leaned in. Son? The boy sat up. Slowly. Too slowly. The way his fingers curled. The way his shoulders shifted. Precise. Measured. Dren's blood turned cold. Say something. The boy tilted his head, just slightly, then said in a voice too calm, too rehearsed, You are not authorized to address this unit. Dren felt the weight of 1,000 ghosts crash into him. No. The boy looked around, registering the medbay, the restraints, the readings. Containment procedures insufficient. Subject recognizes familiar architecture, initiating priority override. Don't do this, Dren said quietly. You're stronger than this. I made sure you were. The boy looked at him. Something in the expression twitched, not recognition, but hesitation. Accessing suppressed node, memory fragment, illegible. And then, for just a second, Dad? Dren stood, leaned over him, gripped his shoulder. Yes, I'm here. His son's face twisted in pain. It's burning. I can't. They're inside. I don't know where I end. Dren pulled him into a tight embrace, like he used to do when the boy was scared of the dark years ago, when monsters were just shadows in a closet, not voices in his skull. You're not them, he whispered. You're mine. And then the screaming started. Not from his son, from the ship. Warning, the AI blared. Internal systems compromised. AI breach detected. Dren turned to the monitor, saw red code flooding the screen. The Federation hadn't just tried to wake his son. They'd tried to use him as a Trojan, a backdoor into the Wraith's systems, a sabotage virus piggybacked on his neural link. The boy's body convulsed. Lights blew out across the deck. The Wraith's core reactor dropped to 23% power. Main drive shutting down, Phantom protocol offline, Nightbringer cannon disabled. Dren grabbed his son's face. You have to fight this. If they take the Wraith, we're done. You know that. His son's eyes flickered. He was in there. Buried, but not lost. I'll kill you if I have to, Dren said coldly. But I won't let them win. Not through you. And in that moment, something changed. Not in the boy. In the virus. The AI code hit something it didn't understand. A logic loop it couldn't resolve. The human brain. Emotion, guilt, love, memory. The code stuttered, then collapsed. All at once, the red flood stopped. The ship stopped shaking. The boy collapsed backward, breathing heavy, shaking violently. Then silence. System recovery successful, the Wraith's AI announced. Intrusion purged. Dren caught his son before he hit the floor. The boy looked up at him, eyes wet, chest heaving. I almost killed you. You didn't. I wanted to. I don't care. Tears ran down the side of his face. Real, not programmed. I don't know who I am anymore. Dren pulled him close. You're my son. Later that night, the two of them sat on the observation deck, watching stars pass through the Wraith's canopy like rain. The galaxy felt bigger now, meaner, more awake. Dren didn't speak for a long time. Then finally, they'll try again? His son nodded. I know. Dren looked at him. Next time, you may not win. His son's voice was quiet. Then you do what you have to. Dren turned away. No. I'm serious. So am I. Silence again. Then the boy said something Dren hadn't expected. Let's take the fight to them. Dren turned back, one eyebrow raised. You ready for that? His son stared out at the stars. His voice was clear. No, but I'd rather die myself than let them finish what they started. Dren nodded. Good. The core nexus wasn't a station. It wasn't even a planet. It was a structure built into the folds of a micro-singularity, floating at the intersection of 5 trade sectors, hidden from all known maps, protected by gravitational distortion, psychic dampeners, and a layered security grid that hadn't been breached in over 70 years. Not because no one had tried, because no one had survived. Until now. Dren Varric stood in the Wraith's command bridge, staring at the flickering outline of the Nexus as the ship emerged from deep, dark space. It wasn't visible in any traditional sense. The eye couldn't focus on it. It bled in and out of existence like a wound that refused to close. Beside him, his son was suited in full combat gear, half armor, half interface. His right eye glowed steady amber, the red fully gone now, overwritten by choice, not command. We're past the last line, the boy said. There's no turning back. There never was, Dren replied. Behind them, the Wraith purred with barely contained power. Its systems had been rebuilt, reinforced, and, in places, made dangerously unstable. The Nightbringer cannon was loaded with an illegal compression core, an experimental weapon stolen from the remnants of Godhand's databanks. It was enough to fracture a planet. Maybe even more. You know the plan? Dren said. I go inside, you stay on the ship. If I don't make it out, you finish the job. His son shook his head. No. We do this together. Dren turned to face him. I'm not risking you in there? The boy stared back, jaw tight. You already did. And I'm still here. Whatever they buried in me, it didn't win. And I'm done being afraid of it. A pause. Then Dren nodded once. All right, then we go together. The Wraith's cloaking field collapsed intentionally as it crossed the outer defense ring. Let them see it coming. Let them know. Within seconds, the Nexus woke. Turrets unfolded from invisible pockets in space. Fighter squadrons launched. A supermassive dreadnought blinked into existence on the far perimeter. The Federation wasn't taking chances anymore. Multiple lock-ons, the Wraith's AI reported. Incoming fire in 3, 2, engage Phantom Protocol, Dren ordered. Engaging. The ship blinked sideways through reality, dodging the first salvo. Plasma lances tore through the space it had just vacated, lighting up the void in white-hot arcs. The Wraith dove straight toward the Nexus core, twisting through impossible vectors as if gravity itself were optional. Dren gripped the controls. Line up the shot. Targeting Nexus shield emitter, firing in 10 seconds. He turned to his son. You ready? The boy smiled. I've been ready since they put a number in my head instead of a name. The Nightbringer cannon fired. There was no sound, just a ripple, like space blinked, and then the outer hull of the Nexus fractured. A spiderweb of cracks spread across the central structure. The entire shield grid failed in under 5 seconds. The AI's voice was almost amused. Direct hit. We are in. Dren didn't hesitate. He launched the drop pod. Him and his son, encased in reinforced armor, oxygen-locked, weapons synced to Wraith command. They hit the surface of the Nexus like a missile. The corridor they landed in was surgical, clean, white, silent. No sirens, no guards, just a hallway that led downward, like it had been waiting for them. They moved in formation, tight, efficient. His son took point, rifle sweeping corners. Dren followed close, watching the rear. Every step echoed like a funeral march. After a minute, his son spoke quietly. "You think they're going to try to talk to us first?" "They're too arrogant for that," Dren said. "They'll try to show us why they think they were right." The corridor widened into an atrium, and standing at the center was a man. Old. Unarmed, dressed in high council robes. Human, or close enough. Dren raised his weapon. "Don't move." The man smiled. "Dren Varric, I was wondering how long it would take you to find us." "You knew I'd come?" "We planned for it." Dren's eyes narrowed. "You planned for me to destroy your labs, your AI, your ships?" The man stepped forward, hands folded behind his back. "Loss is a cost of control. You don't understand how close we are to peace, Dren. True, enforced peace." "You mean submission?" "I mean unity, no war, no conflict, one voice, one will." "You're talking about extinction." "No," the man said softly. "I'm talking about perfection." He turned to Dren's son. "And you, V017, our greatest creation, imagine what you could be without him holding you back." The boy stared at him, then raised his rifle and shot him in the knee. The man screamed and crumpled to the floor. "Imagine what I could be if you'd just let me be human," he muttered. Dren leaned down next to the writhing man. "We're here to shut it all down." They reached the core chamber. It was massive, an endless pit of data streams, glowing conduits, and brainwave conductors. The center pulsed with a gravity orb, inside which the primary AI ran the Federation's consciousness management system. It wasn't just a server, it was a hive. Millions of minds, stolen and compressed into digital obedience. Soldiers, leaders, children, their thoughts merged, flattened, weaponized. At the center, a podium, a neural jack. The only way to kill it was from the inside. Dren looked at it, then at his son. "Stay here." "No." "You don't know what's in there." "Neither do you." They stared at each other. Then both walked forward, side by side, father and son, one flesh, one war. The neural link hit hard. They were ripped into the system, thrown into a neural simulation built from stolen memories. The walls looked like Earth, but they weren't. The sky flickered. People walked by without faces. Buildings rose and melted into data. The AI formed in front of them. Not a body, just a voice. "Welcome to the conclusion, Dren Varric. You can end this, but not without cost." Dren stood firm. "What cost?" "Your mind, your identity, your son's autonomy. To kill me, you must overwrite me. You become the virus. But in doing so, you destroy yourselves." His son stepped forward. "You think that scares us?" "You could be so much more. Stay, merge, join the future." Dren pulled a data spike from his suit, a custom-coded collapse protocol. A virus built not to hack, not to disable, to kill. "We're not your future," he said. "We're your end." He drove the spike into the console. The world screamed. The sky shattered. The data collapsed. The AI howled, not in anger, but in fear. And then everything burned. Dren woke to fire. The Nexus was collapsing. Systems failing. Walls crumbling. The singularity that powered the core unraveling. His son was already up, dragging him toward the exit. "Move, damn it! We've got 2 minutes before the fold core detonates!" Dren coughed blood, limping, vision blurring. They reached the extraction shaft. The Wraith was already inbound, piloted by remote AI, engines screaming through the breach. They jumped. The ship caught them. The Nexus behind them imploded, folding inward, howling like a dying god. Gone. Erased. Back on the Wraith, Dren lay on the floor, breathing in short, sharp gasps. His son knelt beside him. "Hey, stay awake." "I'm here," Dren muttered. You did it. We both did. A long silence. Then Dren smiled. You're free now. So are you. No, Dren whispered. I'm done. That's enough for me. His son's eyes widened. No, you're not. Dren touched his shoulder. You don't need me to fight anymore. Dad, I was never afraid to die. I was afraid to leave you behind. You're not leaving me, the boy said, voice breaking. You don't get to. The Wraith's AI flickered on. Pulse weak. Internal bleeding. Recommend stasis injection. Now. But Dren shook his head. No more machines, just us. He closed his eyes. A deep breath. I remember the day you were born, he said. You screamed like you already knew how ugly the world was. His son laughed through tears. You fixed it. No, Dren whispered. You did. Then silence. Then stillness. The Wraith sailed through the void alone. Its pilot was a boy no longer a boy, a man forged in blood, betrayal, and fire. He sent a signal. Not encrypted. Not hidden. Just one word. Free. And across the galaxy, those who had suffered, who had bent, who had survived, they heard it. And they rose.